Battle Creek, Michigan is not a very large town. Around 5,000 people live there, and despite its small size, it is known as a peaceful and beautiful place. The people know one another and often look out for each other. Surrounded by a scenic valley, it is a wonderful place for families to live. Most of the people who cultivate the land are successful, and the town is also known for its popular zoo. Although the nearby villages are much larger and more crowded, Battle Creek has always been known for its quiet and welcoming atmosphere. But in the summer of 2020, that peaceful atmosphere was about to be shattered. Among the residents was 28-year-old Amber Griffin. She was the loving mother of 2 children. Her older child was 11 years old, and her younger child was just 7. Amber worked at Denso Manufacturing and spent most of her time working hard to provide a better life for her children. According to her mother, Carmen, Amber was a cheerful, kind-hearted woman who trusted people very easily. She had been in a relationship with her boyfriend, Derek Horton, for the past 5 years, and together they lived in Creek Valley Mobile Home Park. Their home was modest, not too small and not too large, but it was the place where they were building their life together. Then came the night that changed everything. On June 22, 2020, at around 10 p.m., Amber sent an emotional message to her mother. She wrote, "Tell my 2 babies I love them too much. For us, the sun will rise soon, I promise." Before ending the conversation, she added one more heartbreaking sentence. "I love you, Mom." Sadly, Carmen had already gone to bed early that night and never saw the message. The following morning, when Carmen finally read her daughter's words, she was immediately worried. She quickly replied, "I brought breakfast for you too." But there was no response. Hours passed. Amber remained completely silent. As the silence stretched into another day, fear began to grow. On June 24th, Amber's boyfriend, Derek Horton, contacted Carmen. He told her, "Our family searched for Amber, but we couldn't find her anywhere. We don't know where she is." By then, Amber had been missing for nearly 48 hours. With no sign of her and no explanation for her disappearance, the family contacted the police. Officers arrived without delay and began their investigation. One of the first people they questioned was Derek Horton. At that moment, no one in Battle Creek could have imagined where the investigation would lead, or what terrible secrets were still waiting to be uncovered. As police began searching for answers, the quiet town of Battle Creek found itself surrounded by questions instead of peace. A 28-year-old mother had disappeared without a trace, leaving behind 2 young children and a message that no one could forget. Detectives started by speaking with the people closest to Amber Griffin. Family members, friends, neighbors, and co-workers were all interviewed. Investigators wanted to understand what Amber's life had been like in the days leading up to her disappearance. Was she planning to leave? Had she argued with anyone? Or had something much more serious happened? One person quickly became a key part of the investigation, her boyfriend, Derek Horton. Since they had lived together for several years, detectives asked him to explain the last time he had seen Amber. They carefully compared his statements with the timeline they were building. Meanwhile, officers searched the Creek Valley Mobile Home Park and the surrounding area for any sign of Amber. Every possible clue mattered. Detectives examined the home, looked for evidence, and spoke with neighbors to find out whether anyone had seen or heard anything unusual during the night Amber disappeared. At the same time, Amber's family refused to give up hope. Her mother, Carmen, could not understand why her daughter had suddenly stopped answering her messages. The loving mother of 2 children would never disappear without telling her family. Something didn't feel right. As the days passed, concerns spread throughout the community. Volunteers joined the search, hoping to bring Amber home safely. But despite all the efforts, there was still no sign of her. Then investigators began receiving new information. Every lead had to be checked. Every statement had to be verified, and every possibility had to be explored. The case was no longer being treated as a simple missing person investigation. Police believed that somewhere, someone knew the truth. And as detectives continued digging deeper into the case, the investigation was about to take a dramatic turn, one that would change everything and bring them closer to a shocking discovery. 3 days had passed since Amber Griffin was reported missing. but there was still no sign of her. The search teams expanded their efforts, checking nearby roads, wooded areas, and empty lots. Every hour that passed made the situation more frightening. Detectives carefully reviewed the timeline once again. They re-interviewed family members, neighbors, and anyone who had spoken with Amber in the days before she disappeared. Small details that had seemed unimportant at first suddenly became pieces of a much larger puzzle. At Creek Valley Mobile Home Park, investigators returned to the property to conduct a more thorough examination. Crime scene specialists photographed the area, collected evidence, and searched every corner of the home. They hoped that even the smallest clue could reveal what had happened. Meanwhile, Amber's mother, Carmen, refused to lose hope. She continued asking the public for help, hoping someone had seen her daughter. Friends shared Amber's picture everywhere they could, praying that a tip would finally break the case. Then, detectives received information that led them back to the property once again. This time, investigators focused on an area outside the home that had not received much attention during the first search. As forensic officers examined the ground more closely, they noticed something unusual. The area appeared different from the surrounding soil, prompting investigators to dig further. Everyone at the scene watched in silence as the excavation continued. What investigators uncovered would completely change the direction of the case. The search for a missing mother was no longer just a search, it had become a homicide investigation. The discovery shocked the entire community. News spread quickly through Battle Creek, leaving neighbors in disbelief. The quiet town that had once felt so peaceful was now at the center of a tragic mystery. As detectives worked to identify who was responsible, one question remained: who had been hiding the truth all along? The discovery at the property stunned everyone involved in the investigation. Detectives immediately secured the entire area, and forensic experts carefully collected every possible piece of evidence. The quiet neighborhood was soon filled with police vehicles, crime scene tape, and reporters trying to learn what had happened. As investigators continued their work, they focused on building a complete timeline of Amber's final days. Every phone call, every text message, and every witness statement was carefully reviewed. Detectives believed that the answers were hidden somewhere within those final hours. Meanwhile, Amber's family gathered together, hoping for justice. Her mother, Carmen, spoke through tears, saying that Amber had always been a caring mother whose children meant everything to her. The family pleaded for anyone with information to come forward. Police continued questioning people who had been close to Amber in the days before she disappeared. They compared statements, examined digital evidence, and followed every lead. Little by little, the investigation began revealing details that had not been known at the start of the case. As the evidence grew, detectives became increasingly confident that they were getting closer to the truth. The case that had started as a missing person investigation had now become a major criminal investigation. But investigators still needed one final piece of evidence before they could reveal exactly what had happened. That final breakthrough would soon bring the investigation to its most dramatic moment and change the lives of everyone involved forever. Nearly 2 years had passed since Amber Griffin disappeared. Despite countless searches, interviews, and forensic work, her family still had no answers and no place to mourn. Then, in March 2022, the investigation took a dramatic turn. As Derek Horton's murder trial was underway, prosecutors offered him a conditional plea agreement. Under the agreement, Horton would have to lead investigators to Amber's remains. If he failed to do so, the agreement would not stand. Police, teams traveled to a wooded area on the north side of Battle Creek. Horton pointed out several locations, but the landscape had changed over the previous 2 years, making the search extremely difficult. Investigators searched carefully, refusing to overlook even the smallest clue. On the FE, a heartbreaking discovery. Buried about 3 feet beneath the ground, investigators found human remains in the wooded area. Officers immediately secured the scene, while forensic experts began documenting and recovering the evidence with great care and respect. Soon after Ahmed that the remains were Amber Griffin's, using medical records and evidence of previous injuries and medical procedures. After nearly 2 years of uncertainty, Amber's family finally had the answer they had been searching for. but it came with overwhelming grief. For in the end of the case, it was a crucial step toward ensuring that the legal process could continue and that her family could finally lay her to rest. The discovery of Amber Griffin's remains marked a major breakthrough, but the investigation was not over. Detectives continued gathering forensic evidence, reviewing witness statements, and building a case that could stand up in court. Prosecutors carefully examined all the evidence collected during the investigation. Every detail, from the crime scene to the interviews, was presented to ensure the truth could be established in court. As the case moved forward, Derek Horton reached a legal agreement with prosecutors. He entered a no-contest plea to second-degree murder, avoiding a trial on the original open murder charge. As part of that agreement, he had already led investigators to the location of Amber's remains, giving her family the chance to finally bring her home. On May 9, 2022, T led with emotion as the judge announced the sentence. Derek Horton was sentenced to 15 to 30 years in prison for the killing of Amber Griffin. For Amber's mother, C of her family, the sentence could never erase their pain. Amber was a loving mother whose 2 children would grow up without her. Although the court had reached its decision, the loss would remain with her family forever. Amber Griffin's case is a reminder that every missing person investigation represents a real family searching for answers. After nearly 2 years of uncertainty, her loved ones finally learned the truth and were able to lay her to rest. Justice was served in court, but for Amber's family, the heartbreak will never truly end.